Well, welcome to Food Trucks 101, how to get started. Thank you so much for taking your time out the day to attend this valuable session. My name is Kareem. Give me one second. I am from SIFT. It's the Center for Food and Innovation Technology. I'm the Small Business Development Specialist at SIFT. I've been working in the food industry my whole life. I started with SIFT back in September, really to kind of help entrepreneurs take their recipe to the market, whether that's taking a product to the market, whether starting a food truck or a business. I love doing what I do, and let's get started. SIFT is a organization that is Ohio MEP partner. MEP partner means Manufacturing Extension Partnership. We've been able to provide business solutions, innovative technical expertise to food processing, agriculture, and manufacturing sectors for over 25 years. We've had positive impacts with all our partners and clients, and we're thankful to have so many resources all these years. We also manage the Northwest Ohio Cooperative Kitchen, or else called the NOC. The NOC is located in Bowling Green. It's a nonprofit commercial kitchen that is used by many entrepreneurs, from someone that's making a guacamole salsa and a barbecue sauce to a food truck or catering company. This gives any food entrepreneurs able to produce their family recipe and kind of showcase that to consumers. It also has state-of-the-art equipment at our facility. And if you are ever interested in learning more about the NOC, please don't hesitate to contact me. I'll be more than happy to allow you to tour it. And I can reach out to you via email as well. So before we get the program started, I would like to have you guys meet our speakers. Today we have Amy Hashak, who is the director of the Jumpstart at the Toledo operations. We also have Yazen Abu Adeyo, which is the owner of the Bubba Eats Mediterranean food truck. And then we have from the Lucas County, Toledo Lucas County Health Department, we have Jody Vaughn, who is a supervisor food safety division, as well as Stacy Seeger, who is a registered environmental health specialist. And I will give it off to Amy, who will be speaking more about Jumpstart and the collaborative and some of the research that's available to you.
Thanks, Kareem.
You're welcome.
I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Hi, everyone. Give me 1 second. Hopefully you can see that. Just give me a nod. Okay. Thanks, Kareem. Like Kareem said, I'm Amy Hashak. I'm the director of Jumpstart for the Greater Toledo and Northwest Ohio area. We're going to talk a little bit about the Business Growth Collaborative here today. Our hope is that you get a better understanding of the types of assistance that is out there for entrepreneurs and anyone looking to start up a business in the Greater Toledo area. We really believe that we're a great reflection of what community organizations can accomplish when supporting entrepreneurs when they do it together. Jumpstart, a little bit about Jumpstart. We provide assistance to companies ranging from tech and tech-enabled to small business at all stages of growth. We provide a wide range of services, including one-on-one business advisory, cohort-based programs, deep dive and small group workshops, talent recruiting, pitch competitions, and intermediary work. Jumpstart is the facilitator and backbone support of the Business Growth Collaborative, which includes managing all of the surveys, data, and reporting, leading the meetings, managing the relationships with stakeholders who support this work, overseeing the deal flow, and a little bit of identifying the gaps within the ecosystem, and things like that. Our office is located in the heart of downtown Toledo at the corner of Madison and Erie. Let's see. I think it's important to give a little bit of a timeline here so you can have an idea of kind of where the Business Growth Collaborative came out of, and kind of why we do that type of work and why we came together as a collaborative with all the other organizations in the ecosystem. So a little bit of a timeline. Back in mid-2018, Jumpstart, who has been in existence for about 20 years, headquartered out of the Cleveland, Ohio region and Northeast Ohio region, was asked by the state on the tech side of the business to come in and open an office here. During that time, ProMedica was sort of overseeing that work, but didn't want to continue to be the lead on that grant. And Jumpstart, given the history of doing this work for 20 years, decided to open a location here and roll out being the lead on the grant on the tech side of the business here in Northwest Ohio. In doing so, though, right from the very beginning, we started servicing not just tech businesses, but small businesses as well. Jumpstart had been servicing small businesses as a company for several years prior to that. So when we opened our offices here in Toledo in January of 2019, we immediately started servicing all businesses, entrepreneurs and businesses, regardless of sector that businesses were working in and entrepreneurs were looking to start a business in. What we found in the work that was being done in Northeast Ohio, and I think that regardless of what region that you live in or where you live, you'll find this to be applicable, there's a lot of organizations, which is great, that are doing this type of work to help small businesses and businesses in general. But a lot of times what we're seeing is those organizations are working very kind of siloed. You might partner with and work with clients with maybe a chamber or a SIFT or other organizations. If somebody were to come to Jumpstart, I might make a referral to Kareem, in the food industry. He would assist them, but then it was just kind of a one-off, not very sophisticated way of helping the clients. So what started in Northeast Ohio as a request from funders actually was, what if all the organizations came together in a more organized way to help entrepreneurs? And that is what initially birthed something called the Business Growth Collaborative. So when Jumpstart came to Toledo area, the greater Toledo area, in mid-2018, before we actually opened our office in 19, we started looking at that same type of concept to happen here. So in 2018, we really took a look at the other economic development organizations that were helping businesses and helping entrepreneurs, and took a look at not just what organizations were doing the work, but their expertise, subject matter expertise in helping entrepreneurs. So we identified 11 other organizations. So there's actually 12 organizations within the Business Growth Collaborative, and started identifying what those 3 areas of expertise were, so that we are not duplicating efforts, but also knowing when to send businesses to which organizations. So I'm going to kind of stop there for 1 minute and take you to this next slide. And I think this is important because the work that we do really takes capital services and connections to help entrepreneurs. And that connections piece is very important as we look at the Business Growth Collaborative. We recognize, and I think all the organizations in the Business Growth Collaborative recognize, it takes a village to raise an entrepreneur. It is no one organization can do all of the work, nor should they be doing all of this work alone. So we really think about every time we're in a meeting, and we'll get into kind of how the Business Growth Collaborative is structured, but when we're in meetings, we really oftentimes bring up this visual of the entrepreneur in the center of the room, and all of our organizations really wrapping our resources around those entrepreneurs to help them not only get them the assistance they need, but grow at a faster rate. If you think about, if not for the Business Growth Collaborative and this type of structure, prior to that, we would maybe refer to somebody to SIFT, and then Kareem would help them and take them as far as they could. But let's say that they then need financial projections, and then they need capital. They need different things, different resources. It was just very kind of toss them off. You're not sure what happens to them after that. In the Business Growth Collaborative, let me go to this next slide so you can see who all is involved in the Business Growth Collaborative. We have something called deal flow meetings. So once a month, we all get together and we talk about businesses that have come through any one of our doors that needs assistance from one or more organizations in the room. and we say, somebody came in, they're a food truck, for example. They also need financial projections. They need a competitive analysis. I'm just, throwing out those 3 examples. We talk about the milestones that they need to be set up, who they need to have meetings with. And then once those milestones are achieved, they're logged into a centralized system that we all have access to, then we discuss where they go next. So I would send them to Kareem because they're in the food industry. I would send them to Jill Badger at the Chamber of Commerce for financial projections. I'd send them over to the Linda Fairweather at the library to do their competitive analysis through all of the amazing resources that they have at the library. That way, in addition to getting them the resources that they need at a faster rate, it also, for the entrepreneur, demystifies the ecosystem for them. Think about if you're an entrepreneur. First of all, you probably don't even know all the resources that are out there that are available to you for free. But also, how do you navigate? How do you know where to go, right? So we always say, just get into any one of our doors and we'll get you the assistance that you need. You don't need to figure it out, right? We have all stacked hands and said, we're all working together. We will get you what you need, even if, and especially if it's not through our own organization. So we really, not only have we taken a look at the success of this, we now, having done this since January of 19, we survey twice a year. So we actually have data to support the types of successes that have come out of the assistance received through something like this structure. But in addition to that, part of the mission of the Business Growth Collaborative is also to take a look at where there's gaps in the ecosystem that need to be filled. So, and we do that by, if we have entrepreneurs that consistently come to us for resources that none of us are able to fill, and we're looking for other resources within the ecosystem, and we're not really finding ways of which they are being met, we create programming to meet them. So for example, marketing needs continue to come up, website development, social media, things like that. Nobody really was specializing in that. So we had funding pool dollars that were available to our collaborative that helped us hire somebody to meet that need for the Business Growth Collaborative clients that were coming through the door. Another area of which we found a gap or a need is there were 3 organizations in the Business Growth Collaborative: the Northwest Ohio Hispanic Chamber, African American Chamber, and the Women of Toledo were all doing mentoring for underserved and minority entrepreneurs. But they were very small grassroots efforts. They really didn't have the funding to support those mentor programs. So those 3 organizations decided to come together to create the Northwest Ohio Mentor Program. So through that collaboration and through that partnership, they've now elevated the mentorship for these entrepreneurs at a much more sophisticated and higher level, all again made possible through the collaborative efforts. So those are just a couple examples of how this is working. I would certainly encourage, I'm going to put the website in the chat for anybody who's on watching this to please go check out the landing page and the website that shows a description of all the different organizations that are part of the Business Growth Collaborative. So you do have an awareness of the resources that are out there. But again, if you need assistance and you're not sure how to navigate, just walk through any one of our doors. We will get you the help that you need. And then I would also encourage anybody who's listening who is not an entrepreneur, maybe an entrepreneur, but living in a community that is not the greater Toledo area and are interested in doing something like this, please reach out to us and we can certainly talk to you about how we went about creating this collaborative, the benefits of it. It's not easy to get 12 organizations that are think differently or organized differently, have their own way of doing things, to get together and kind of come together collectively to work. We work holistically across the board. It took us probably 6 months of storming, norming, and forming before we came to an agreement of an MOU and how we were going to work together. But we can honestly say today, 3 years later, that it's working very well. And we're really proud of the work that we're doing. Kareem, did I miss anything? Is there anything else you wanted me to touch on?
No, you got everything. And then I should say that through this organization, it's been an honor to be part of this, but through this organization, we're always getting extra funding to do some of our SIFT services as well. So anybody that's trying to do a nutritional fact label or wants to do a focus group or any other food certification, please reach out to us or reach out to Amy or any of these amazing organizations.
Thanks, Kareem.
You're welcome. Thank you, Amy. So I will, up next, I will pass it on to Jody and Stacy in regards to regulations. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to use the question and answer box that's on the bottom of your Zoom bar. Jody, Stacy, you guys can take it away. I know food trucks could be a lot when someone's trying to trying to start a business like that. Yeah, so you guys are the expertise and it's all you.
Hi, I'm Jody. I'm the food safety supervisor.
I'm Stacy. I'm one of your inspectors.
Food trucks. So let's just go over, I think Kareem sent out a packet with our application in it to everyone that basically had, if you're interested in doing a food truck in Lucas County, every county is a little bit different, then you need to start with the food application guide. For us, the most important thing is menu. Everything is based off your menu. You're going to need to have a full, complete menu with everything that you plan on serving off of that food truck. And it's not just food trucks, it's carts, and there's something called a tear down mobile. So there are some options out there, but that menu is what's important. We will need information on bulk ingredients and a location list. We want that menu to be as limited as possible because everything you do is going to have to be on that mobile. Everything you, for the most part, has to be cooked, stored, and stay on that mobile. There will need to be a drawing to scale of everything that's in there, the total square footage, all the equipment, and it all has to be commercial equipment. We get that question a lot of times, but the commercial equipment's very important, especially think about how hot those trailers get. If you don't have commercial equipment in there, it is not going to be able to keep up keeping things cool in there. Sinks, hand sinks, 3-compartment sinks, prep sinks. If you plan on doing a lot of fruits and vegetables, you're going to need to have a prep sink in there as well. Material surfaces, a hot water tank, a water tank, and some sort of wastewater container. Not everywhere you go is going to have a fresh water supply for you. It's also not going to have a place where you can hook up to sewage. So you're going to have some place to get rid of that wastewater. So Stacey, am I missing anything?
No, you may require a hood system depending on what your menu is.
Yes, depending, once again, going back to menu. And we're not the experts with hood systems. That's where the fire department comes in. I know a lot of places are requiring individual fire inspections for each different city or township that you're in. So you're going to have to check before you go in there. There also has to vendor licensing and city regulations for mobiles. I know of Sylvania, Toledo, and Oregon. There may be other cities or municipalities that also require some sort of additional certification besides your food license. So once you submit an application, you're going to submit an application to either where you live, or if you're out of state, the first county that you plan on operating in. You're going to submit your application. We have 30 days to review that application. That application needs to be reviewed. If there's any discrepancies or any anything that needs to be added, then you'll get an email or a disapproval letter. Once everything is set, it looks good on paper, then we do an approval letter. Once you get the approval letter, you will set a pre-license inspection, which means we go out and make sure that what you put on paper is actually what's in the unit. And also we check to make sure that everything in the unit is working correctly, which would be any, your hot water, your running water, any steam tables, refrigeration, and seeing where everything is at. And then you would be able to get your license. They would approve you to be licensed. Licensing right now for Lucas County is 108.74. That changes every single year, and it's based in the county. Our licensing year runs from March 1st to February 28th every year. So you do need to renew every year at the new rate on March 1st. So everything should be done on your mobile unit, but sometimes that's just not possible. And this is where the SIFT, the Not Kitchen, kind of comes into play as well. If you do need to use a commissary, you may need it for prep. You may need it for cooling and reheating large items so that you could just store it cold on your mobile before you heat it up to serve it. You may need it for extra storage. Warewashing. Or for a 3-compartment sink. We try not to do that because we would like that 3-compartment sink on there. If you're going to use a commissary, the commissary needs to be licensed by ODA, and it also has to be approved by the health department. So if you're going to use, say, a restaurant kitchen, we need to make sure that that restaurant kitchen has enough capacity to have what they have been licensed for, as well as what you want to do there. Mobiles, there's a lot of good things about mobiles. Mobiles are great because they take a lot less capital than a brick and mortar. So, it's great if you want to do a startup business, see how, your recipes are going to go. And you can move them all over Ohio. One food license is good for the whole state of Ohio. But like I said, each individual municipality is now looking at doing individual licenses. So the bad points about a mobile, it does have to move. It should be moving on a regular basis. There's something in the code that says 40 days, so it has to move by that 40th day, but it really is made not to be sitting in the same space every single day. It needs to move around to different locations. That's what the whole purpose of the mobile was. And everything's got to be on your mobile. It's supposed to be a self-sufficient restaurant. So everything, or as much as you can, has to be on that mobile. So that can make it a little difficult. And that's why we want to limit your menu as much as possible. Our purpose is to make sure that the food that you're serving to the public, which can be hundreds of people in a day, is served safely, and that nobody gets sick. I mean, that's the last thing any of you would want, and that's the last thing we want. So we try to do as much as we can to make sure that nobody's going to get sick and that the food that you serve is safe. Stacy?
I think one of the big issues when it comes to mobiles, you guys are small and compact, but when we license you, no matter if it's Lucas County, Wood County, Fulton County, any entity that license you, we are licensing you for the whole state of Ohio. That's 88 counties. That means you can go from Lucas County, you can go to Columbus, you can go to Reynoldsburg with that same license. But because you're leaving your area with your commissary or whatever, you have to maintain all that stock on that truck and be able to keep it safely. So, sometimes it seems, oh my gosh, they're being so strict. They're only letting me limit my menu to this amount of things, because that's how we have to license you. Because that is the whole point of a mobile license, for you to be to travel anywhere in the state of Ohio. Otherwise, a lot of you may not decide to go that far. You want to get into events. You want to go to the Rib Off, you want to go to the Old West End Fest. Again, you need to have the capacity on that truck to be able to do that event, or you're going to have to get a reefer truck or a stock truck to have all that stuff with you at the time of these events. Mobiles are licensed basically for events. Unlike like your Schwans or your ice cream trucks that they go around all the time. I mean, a lot of people would like that with the taco trucks, just turn on a bell and you can, go through all the neighborhoods and hook up and everything, but it's just not that easy. So the biggest thing is capacity for the mobiles. And there's another misconception that we seem to be getting a lot of, and we're trying to figure out how to resolve this. A lot of entities or mobiles that are coming about think that their LLC is their food service license. That is not a food service license. That's protecting your name and your liability. That is not a food service license. You actually have to have a physical food service license from your local health department. The health department is involved in anything, anywhere that food is made, purchased, wherever. We are everywhere. So we should be one of your starting points when you're considering doing a mobile, think of that menu and think about it hard. You want to be unique. You don't want to have the same food items as, the other hundreds of taco trucks out there. You don't want to, have, the hot dogs that everybody else is having. And you want to do something that's unique to you with a minimal amount of food.
So a couple of questions came while you guys were discussing. So the first one was, so someone, let's say, has a tequila truck. What kind of certification they would need if they're not using a truck? So and what other food certification would they need to operate it, like a truck like that? So
in that case, it would probably be a tear down mobile, depend either way. Whenever you're selling food, you're going to contact the health department. We will tell you what you're going to need. If you don't have a truck, then you're going to do a tear down. And in our application explains what a tear down is. You still have to have mechanical refrigeration. You still have to have a 3-compartment sink for ware washing, hot holding potentially, a covered tent or something in case it rains or something, to establish like that. But that is part of our plan packet, and you can access that on our website.
Did you say tequila?
Currently there are no approved alcohol mobiles. And according to Brian Rogers with Ohio, it says they are not even entertaining that at this point.
Wow.
Because we would like it on some of these trucks. I mean, we would like it to, come down my street, I'll grab a margarita. But
so if it has to do with alcohol, then it would have to go through Ohio Liquor.
right.
And we may be involved in portions of it, like we are with bars, but that would be a totally different entity to deal with.
Gotcha. And then another question was, I had a couple. So when someone wants to change menu items, obviously inventory right now is not so great. So whenever someone has to change menu items, do they have to get re-inspected and pay additional fees every time they change the menu, or?
No, changing menu items is an issue because everyone's like, ooh, this is why menu once again is so important. You are licensed. On the back of your license, it has your layout. So your exact layout of what it's supposed to be. And it also has a list of your menu items. That's important to make sure that what you're approved for, which your menu is the capacity of your truck. If you constantly change items, then it's going to be a problem because it's going to have to go through plan review again. And we just don't entertain it right away. I mean, if you're a brand new mobile, we're not going to stick with the menu that you gave us, see how that runs, and then we can maybe look at it in 6 months, a year to see if we want to add some items or subtract some items or change stuff up because it's just not working for you. You pay for your license. That's it. So if you, when you submit a plan application, that's something else. For mobiles, there is no fee for a plan application. So that is free. You just drop it off and we go through the process. You just pay for your license. So, every inspection isn't a fee, every time you change something isn't a fee. But that isn't something we're going to entertain right away after, that's why we tell you at the very beginning, your menu is the most important thing that you are going to do, because this is what we're going to ask you to look at and stay with for a while.
And any menu changes or equipment changes that do have to be pre-approved. You don't necessarily have to go through the whole plan practice again, but you're going to contact your inspector. And we're talking 6 months, a year down the road. We want you to get your feet wet to find out what works and what doesn't work for you. And at that time, you contact your inspector, because there's 13 of us over here, or any county, whatever county you're in. You keep a good relationship with your inspector and say, hey, this isn't working for me. I want to try this. What do you think? And we'll revamp your menu, and we will work with you through the process. But any menu or equipment changes have to be pre-approved.
And then
there's sorry to interrupt you, but secondly, for that, not just because we're trying to be strict or anything, but we're also kind of protecting you, because as some food truck operators know, and as operators knows, when you go to events, sometimes you're paying to go to that event. And if your license does not, if you're not operating in accordance to your license and your restrictions, you can be removed from the facility. They will say, sorry, this doesn't match. You got to go. You're out that money. You're not going to get reimbursed. So it's just easier to keep up an open communication with your inspector.
Gotcha. And then, so if a mobile food vendor wants to do catering, do they need to have a different license?
It's
and
not really a
inspection,
catering
or-
license, but you have to stay on your truck. If you want to do a private party and call it catering, we interpret catering as one fee for an event. That is catering, not what you're going to, or if you're going to a private party, that may work, but you're going to stay on your truck. You're not going off your truck. You're just taking your stuff there to a private party and operating for them. That's fine. But we don't want you off your truck. That's what you're licensed for. Unless you have a tear down mobile, that's a little bit different, but you're going to set up your whole mobile tear down at that event as well. That's a private event. So we don't really classify that as catering. I know operators do that because it's kind of like Subway saying they cater. It's like they're basically, giving you Subway sandwiches and bringing them to you, or you pick them up, or you're
Gotcha.
getting bulk food quantities.
Mhm. And then, if an entrepreneur has just an idea of owning or running a food truck, are you guys able to help find one, or is there like a great resource that you would suggest to, or should they ask Yazen if they have other business truck owners where
Yeah.
they find those type of
We
things?
can't find you trucks. I mean, there's always Facebook Marketplace or, Toledo Food Trucks. A lot of people put out questions there on Facebook. We do tend to follow all of our operators on Facebook or throughout any of their social media, just so we can, because once you are licensed, you are also subject to inspection anytime you're out. You might get inspected 50 times in a year, you might get, 1 or 2 inspections, but anytime that you are out and operating, you are subject to inspection. And not only by us any longer, now fire can show up, zoning can show up, the city of Toledo. Once you have a license, you are subject to inspection.
Gotcha. After this program, I did forget to mention, all the panelists today, contact information will be sent out to all the attendees as well as the recording. So please keep in mind, and if you have any questions, please reach out to them. Does anyone have any other questions? The question I had is, what is the single most challenge that, new food truck owners kind of face? I mean, other than kind of some of the certification that they have, like what is the common challenge that they always have?
Menu.
Menu?
They always want to serve more than what they can.
Gotcha.
You do one thing and you do it well, and that's what people know you for. That's the best idea. Instead of trying to do it all, limit it, because
You're
Yeah.
not a restaurant, you are a mobile. Oh, you
And those
don't
are
get to have-
tiny and hot.
I
So,
think Yaz would give you the best information as far as
Yeah.
what the biggest challenges are with the mobile or getting
Gotcha.
licensed. I mean, we try to be accommodating, but that we do have regulations. And again, we are licensing for the whole state of Ohio, not just for Lucas County.
Gotcha. And then, the person that wanted had a question. What, other than menu, so do you think that people should just do the framework and business plans first before they own a mobile truck? Because what happens if you actually buy a food truck and it's already been licensed to Lucas County? Has there ever been kind of hiccups in transition of owners, or are some of those food trucks grandfathered in when
We
they
do
used to
not
run it?
grandfather anything.
Okay, gotcha.
So, but it depends on the situation. I mean, once a food truck is licensed, even though it's been licensed in another county, or even our county, code changes. It changes every couple of years. There might be, tweaks. One that may be coming up, which is still pending approval from the state of Ohio and Department of Agriculture, is they are talking about requiring mobile food truck operators to have education in food safety, because that's one thing that we are lacking in this industry, because everybody feels that they can cook. They've never made anybody sick at home. But yet when we go to do their inspections, it's like I can go into a food truck and like, whoa, this cold holding unit's at 47. And they look at me like deer in the headlights because they don't know what the temperature is supposed to be. So we do try to help educate as we go, but the state is trying to push that through as a requirement because it is required for restaurants.
Gotcha.
Just basic food handlers course, so our people know what your hot holding temperatures are supposed to be, what your cold holding temperatures are supposed to be, what storage order is supposed to be. So we're not going in and derailing your whole situation or going in and throwing all your food away because you were not educated in the way that the food was supposed to be temped or stored.
For someone that was working at a ghost kitchen and running a food service business, can they submit a full menu with 5 to 10 items and get inspected for those items and choose or limit which items they offer on a particular day?
If they have a commissary kitchen, yes.
Gotcha.
And again, that commissary, ghost kitchen, however you want to refer to it, has to be approved by us or whatever county you're in to make sure that they can have your capacity and have an ODA license for wholesaling.
Gotcha. And then do all food trucks require a fire suppression system?
That is
No.
fire's jurisdiction and not always.
I mean, obviously, if you're serving ice cream on the truck, you're not going to need a fire suppression on. But if you're cooking, most likely you're going to have some sort of hood system.
And that seems to be an ongoing change with the fire department as well. I don't know if Yaz's has a problem with that, but I have had somebody that they didn't necessarily have to have suppression because they only had one small fryer, but they opted to get it anyway because other counties may require it. If you go to Wood County, they say you don't have suppression, you got to go home. So, but that is not our call. I am not going to deny you because you do not have suppression.
And then I think you guys answered this previously, but different wording. So can you do a seasonal menu and then set a summer and spring menu, and then when you start out with a planned flip at a set date?
That you're going to discuss probably with the plan reviewer and the food inspector, depending on what you're talking about and how big of changes we're talking about, and if you're going to require a separate kitchen.
Gotcha. And then in your experience and opinion, should an entrepreneur get the truck first, or should they do things before they grab their truck?
They should look at their menu. It's hard because the menu, like I said, is the most important thing, but I understand how nobody's going to want to go out and buy a truck and then, so
no.
yes. So looking at the menu first, getting that menu set, and then finding a truck that fits the menu would be the better choice. I mean, obviously, if you're doing French fries, hamburgers, and I don't know, onion rings and chicken tenders, you're going to need fryers. You're going to need some sort of grill. You're going to need some cold holding, some storage, and a prep top if you're going to put things on the hamburgers. When you're looking at that, so you're going to have to make sure that those things are in your truck. And obviously we're going to help you with those things, but we're not going to lay out the truck for you. We're not going to, we'll help you with the process, but we can't do we're not going to be able to do all of the work for it.
There, you can always look at a truck, maybe take some pictures, run it by us, or again, whatever county you're dealing with, and run it. Everybody's willing to help out there. We are not, cut and dry, like, no, we don't want to we're not going to communicate with you until after the fact. If you have questions, you can always reach out to us at the health department. Usually Sarah, as far as plan review, or if you already have an established inspector, you can always reach out to that inspector, say, this is what I'm thinking about doing. This is the truck I'm looking at. Do you think I can accommodate that? Or, especially if you're looking at a used truck, again, you may want to run that by us to make sure that it's still going to be satisfactory for code. If it's something used, or that you're going to, what's the word, revamp to acquire you. We're finding a lot of campers and a lot of that type of situation that want to become mobiles all of a sudden. So I mean, if you're going to go that route, we definitely need to have a discussion about it to make sure that there's the seams, the floors, the holding will work, versus somebody that's buying an actual food truck or trailer. You got a trailer, you got a truck, and those are up to you what you decide you want.
Gotcha. Now, I actually did have an interesting question. Why wouldn't all the 88 counties in Ohio have the same rules and regulations? And wouldn't that make easier for travel county by county?
We do. We have one state code. It's not our code for the health department. Now, when you're talking like these little municipalities, Sylvania, Toledo, Oregon, Maumee, that want you to have that sticker, that's on them. That's the city departments. That has nothing to do with your food license, because you are licensed for all 88 counties.
And it's all the same code. I'm sorry, but unfortunately there is some minor interpretations in different counties of what we are starting to see mop sinks in mobiles. So there are some counties that are requiring mop sinks, which we have not even addressed yet. We prefer to get prep sinks in a lot of them before we even start looking at mop sinks. But that is something that some of the counties have, because in our code, basically the only things that they said that you don't have to have are, I think, a grease interceptor, like there's and a restroom, and there's like one other thing. But everything else has to be in there just like it was a restaurant. So they have taken that from the code and said, oh, well, mop sinks are required to be in every facility. You need a mop sink in your mobile. So like I said, we're all working out of the same code, but we all have a little bit of different interpretation. It's hard enough to keep our 13 inspectors on the same path. That's why we have one plan reviewer. But we do try.
And then are inspections done at the truck's home or the main storage area? So where do inspections really take place?
We prefer to do the inspections where you're at during an event. So we are out at almost every event that you're at. Now, obviously, if you guys are pulling up at, the intersection and we're not there, but if it is a festival or a fair, we're usually there. And we prefer to do an operational inspection. At the beginning of the year, we might try to do one at your home or your storage, where you're storing at.
Your mailing address.
But we are looking more to have people come to us to make sure everyone's able to move. We've had some issues with that. We need to make sure that everybody's is able to move, that when they get there, that their equipment can be kept cold, things like that. So
Now, what if you have an entrepreneur that does like confectionery items, so like mixing of dough and all that type of stuff? Are those able to be put on trucks, or do they have to have a commissary kitchen first and then just basically take the dough on the truck and just
Either
cook it
way, there are some mobiles out there that do processes like that where they have a mixer and stuff on there. Because I mean, it's a smaller, in smaller quantities. I mean, they do the actual baking on the mobile, but again, it depends on the size of the mobile and the capacity. But yes, it can be done either way.
Gotcha. And then do you guys provide resources for food trucks owner of where to find like drop off gray water area and kind of that type of stuff, or is that kind of on an entrepreneur to find it themselves?
Yeah, we don't really delve into the disposal quite. I mean, it states that it has to be a disposal area, but I'm sure 99% of the mobiles are just dumping it in sewers or whatever.
We are hoping they are dumping it at least in a sanitary sewer.
Yeah,
They are supposed to be,
yeah, not the stormwater.
yes.
So,
Gotcha. Well,
And there aren't very many licensed places for drop off in Lucas
Yeah.
County that I'm aware of.
gotcha. In regards to already restaurants, established restaurants that want to go into the mobile, whether it's for catering or really, or just have a mobile truck, do they have the same regulations, or are they a little bit different because they're not using it as often? They're mainly using it for certain events or certain.
They
things.
are licensed just like any other mobile.
Gotcha.
We have several. Grumpy's had one, Rosie's has one. They're licensed just like any other mobile. And their facility, even though they're getting things from their own kitchens, still has to be licensed by ODA in order for them to wholesale into their, so unless they're making everything on their mobile, which most of them are, let's be honest. I mean, it's so much easier to make it in the kitchen and bring it onto your mobile. So they have to have ODA even in their facility to serve to their own mobile.
Oh, wow, I know that. All right, so is there any other questions before we get to the next speaker? Feel free to use either the Q&A chat or the actual chat. I appreciate all of you guys sending in questions for our panelists. I think that is it. So I think, yeah, everybody asked their questions that they had and that they wanted to be answered. Thank you, Stacy and Jody, for your time. I appreciate all your guys' help. And I hope all participants were able to answer their questions that they had for the regulators.
thank you.
You're welcome. So next up is going to be Yezen from Bubba Eats Food Truck. He will be discussing his experience as a food truck owner, as well as dealing with Lucas County Health Department and kind of some of the hiccups and challenges that he faced. Yezen has, not sure, did you start last year, Yezen? I think you started last year.
I started in October of 2020. So
October of
my
2020?
second year, yeah.
Gotcha. So Yezen, you've been very successful. I've had your tacos. They're completely delicious. So now I'm a little hungry now. So feel free. It's all on you. You can take it from here.
Okay. Hi guys, my name is Yez, or Yezan Abu Adia. I'm the owner of Baba's Eats, the Mediterranean Middle Eastern taco truck in Toledo. I don't have a presentation for you guys. I'm just going to talk. So I opened at the end of October 2020, and it took probably 6 months to get licensed originally. You have to go through the city of Toledo. You got to go through the health department. There's a bunch of things. I sent a link earlier, and I think Kareem's gonna send you guys a packet. But once you print it, there's actually check boxes for whatever setup you have. If you're doing tent, if you're doing a mobile or trailer, there's check mark boxes. You got to go through one of those, every one of those at a time, right? So you start off with that paper. That's what I would advise with, is go with the paperwork that the city provides. And then you need to hit every one of them check boxes for them to approve you. So I do a smaller menu, and I still have to cut that menu down because of how small my trailer is. So I run a 6x12 trailer, and depending on the size of the event, I some days only do tacos. I don't have my hummus, I don't have my quesadilla. I just go and do what I can because of storage space. Stacy told me I couldn't even run originally because my plan was denied because I didn't have a second fridge. And I'm so glad she told me to get a second fridge, because there was no way I was going to be able to be out there at all without the storage space. Everything in there's in small containers. You have to be very organized with what you guys do. It's challenging at first to find locations, to find events, to find venues. You gotta make a name for yourself. You can ask other food truck owners for help. Most of us are nice enough. I'll give you information on where to go for equipment, or where to get your inspection done, or who needs an inspection, or cost, because everywhere you go, it's a little bit different. I'm licensed by the health department for Toledo and Lucas County, but I can travel with that. But then I'm also licensed in Sylvania, Toledo, Bowling Green, Perrysburg Township, and Perrysburg. To get licensed in Perrysburg, I had to go change a couple of my lines and then go get a different propane inspection again after I had already been set up for 6 months, because they require something a little bit different. So you got to make sure you know where you're gonna work before you work. Plus, you also have to remember, for tax purposes, every little area has its own tax rate. For food, you don't really get taxed on food, but when you submit your menu to the health department, you really need to keep it simple, because the more difficult your menu is, the more room you need on your truck. And as it is right now, I'm in there scrubbing away all day. If I'm not cleaning, I'm cooking or I'm shopping, and everything has to be done on the mobile. Your house is not your mobile kitchen. You can't use your pots and pans from your house. You can't use your silverware from your house. Everything has to be on your truck or easily accessible in like containers or something, put it in the back of the pickup, but it has to be on your truck, has to be cleaned on your truck, has to be cooked on your truck. There's some exceptions on prepackaged items, but you'd have to ask the health department if that's okay or not. Like if you're selling like a cookie or a bag of chips, something like that would as a side. But you also still need room for storage properly. You can't have your meat at the wrong temperature. One of the things Stacy told me originally was to look at Serve Safe. So what I did was, after I figured out where the website was, I went in and looked at, it tells you all the meat temperatures you have to have. It tells you how to set up your sanitizer bucket and your 3 sinks. So you're required 3 sinks and then a hand wash, so 4. And then you got to have water for your entire event. You can't just have a little bit of water right when you get there, because what if you have to clean in the middle? You make a mess. You drop something, spill, you have to clean real quick so you don't slip and fall, because you don't want to fall on one of these mobiles. Mine is so tight, if I fall, I'm going to break something. I will. Hit my head on something. I will. It's bad. Somebody asked earlier about inspections. Stacy came right to my house, right to my mobile, and inspected it because it was COVID time, the first time. But now they prefer to come out to your event. I think I was inspected twice last year. I'm trying to think of what else. The reason I did a food truck and not a restaurant, it was actually for cost. So I found my food truck on Facebook. I think back then it was only like between $7,000 and $10,000. It had the water set up, the electrical was ready. I just didn't want the overhead of having a brick and mortar, where if I had a slow month, I'm still paying the same amount of time. Then I can't spend the time with my kids because I'm at work all day, which I'm still at work all day, but now I'm just outside in the yard. But having the brick and mortar is different. You're there all day. You have employees that you have to talk to or deal with all the time. I can go to some of my smaller events by myself and just work 2-3 hours and I'm good. And then I come home, I clean the truck and the trailer. I keep saying truck, but mine is actual trailer, and I pull it with a pickup truck. Some people have the full-size trucks, but you got to keep in mind if the motor goes, the transmission goes, you can't go work. You're putting money into fixing it while not working. So that's why I went with the trailer that I found on Facebook. I can get another pickup truck and still pull it to work when I need to. For shopping, you can't really shop around. You tell them where you're going and what you're getting, because it has to be. So right now I'm getting killed because price of meat and supply issues. And you got to think about that too. I've been getting the same tortillas from the same place since I started, and now there's a flour shortage. So I'm having trouble getting tortillas. So I have to call him 3 times a week and be like, do you have my bread yet? Because I need the bread, and you have to keep it refrigerated. So you can't keep a lot of stock at the same time. You know what I mean? You can't buy in bulk. I have to, some days I have to go shopping in the morning, then go shopping in the middle of the day for the next event, because I don't have room to keep all the tomato or the cucumber or whatever I'm using that day in my fridges. So I'll use what I have, I'll clean, I'll go get more, and then come back and work again. So you really have to be organized. You have to know your layout, know your menu, and know what you can sell. So I do some of the ProMedica concerts in the summer too. And those, I limit my menu to about 4 items. The 3 meat tacos and a veggie taco. Because I just need room for salsa, white sauce, and the meat that I have to cook. And it all has to be on separate shelves too. You can't just mix and match. That's why you want to do the serve safe. So you learn about how health safety or food safety, sorry, is what I meant. I don't know. I've talked a lot. Anybody have any questions so far?
The first question I had is where did, and Jody and Stacy tapped on this one. Where did you apply for your license? I know it's been asked multiple times. Where did you apply? Did you apply it to the Lucas County?
Yes, my license is through Lucas County for my health department license. So I was calling them. I didn't have a resource like this. I didn't have a seminar or a webinar I can go to. I literally was starting out fresh, brand new, was never in a restaurant business. I worked at a junkyard for 8 years prior before I did this. So everything I did, I had to, first I went online and did my research. And then if I didn't know, I was bugging the health department. I was calling them and asking like, hey, like for like 3 weeks, I was sending messages to the one person asking if this equipment was okay until she explained how the certifications work. So I knew which equipment was NSF and the difference between UL and UL UL certified and regular UL, because you can't use all the same certifications for your equipment. So the health department is a huge resource. They don't mind helping you. They'd rather you feed people in a safe way than you just guessing and bringing in whatever equipment you think is going to work, you know?
And then since you make amazing tacos and food, did you have any experience before you got started? So like Stacy and Jody mentioned menu. So did you like have family and friends try it and kind of go from that route? And then you're like, you know what, I want to do this as a business.
I've always wanted to do food. I was a home cook. My friends like my food. My family likes my food. It's just something I always enjoyed. And I thought maybe it'd be a good thing to get into, especially when COVID hit. I was working sales and sales just dropped. I was sitting in an office all day because it was auto parts and it was still, what did they call us back then? Necessary or something.
Oh, essential.
Yeah. Essential. That's the word. Yeah, I was essential, I guess. So
Yeah, I know about that.
yeah, so I was still essential and I wasn't making any money, and I always thought I wanted to do food. And then I was gonna get married in Florida, and my wedding got canceled because of COVID. I got married still, but I couldn't get married in Florida any longer. So I had extra money saved up, and I was like, you know what? It might be the time to try this, to go for it. And that's when I did it. I started doing what I wanted to do, and then my buddy gave me the idea to take the Arabic, the Middle Eastern foods that I was doing and put them in a taco. He said, that's going to be a lot easier on the mobile, and everybody loves a taco. And I was like, that's genius. The next day, I kind of wrote up a half-ass menu, and then I had people coming over weekly at the house to try the food. Like, hey, do you like it this way? Do you like it that way? And then I was submitting my menu to the health department a few weeks later after that. And then I found my mobile on Facebook and put a deposit down. And I think that was in around May. So I didn't get my trailer until July, and I wasn't completely legal until October. So it does take some time, guys. You do need to do your research. You need to talk to the health department. You need to talk to the fire department, the city, to figure out what you need to do. Like, I was talking to one mobile the other day. He completely forgot to register with the city of Toledo after he got licensed with the health department. So the next day he went and licensed real quick. I was like, dude, you gotta go. You're gonna get yourself in trouble. And they can shut you down. They can put out an order to cease and desist. They can take your truck away. You do not want to operate illegally. You want to do everything by the book. If you don't, you can get somebody sick. You can get in trouble yourself. You can lose all the money you invested. It's just not smart to mess around. Just do it the right way. I see some trucks that kind of want to do everything half-assed, and it's like, dude, like, no, don't do that. Do it the right way.
So what was kind of your biggest challenge per se of, getting ready or getting your truck ready? Obviously, everybody has challenges, but what was yours?
Mine was, it was like stock and knowing like how much I needed for an event, or because I've never been in the restaurant business before. So I would go to an event with either too little food or a little too much food, and then I'd be wasting. And then figuring out like what's necessary for an event, finding events was always hard too. And then learning to navigate and cleaning all in one little food truck is hard. You are moving stuff around and setting stuff to the side and cleaning something real quick so you have room to do it, and then making sure you refill your water so you have more water for the dishes. Like, I was out all weekend, and I was working. I would prep in the morning, work all day, and then when I get home at night, I was cleaning the whole truck again so I can prep again the next morning, and then work and then clean. So like, you think you're only out for a few hours, but you got to remember there's prep beforehand and clean up after. So don't expect to have the trailer and only work for 4 hours a week. That's not going to happen. Outside of that, you're going to get calls and texts about going to different events. You are going to be actively looking for different events. You're also shopping for your supplies and making sure they have them in stock before you get there. You also have to plan your week to make sure you have the supplies on the right day. Like, some days I'll grab my tomatoes the night before the event early in the morning, and I had to quit doing that because the tomatoes from Gordon's would go bad by morning sometimes. And I try to use the pre-dice to save time. So I would end up going shopping again in the morning and grabbing 2 more 5 pounds of diced tomatoes so it would be fresh for the day. So just make sure you are getting stuff and selling stuff that is fresh, and make sure it's not something that's processed. People don't want the same thing over and over. You're going to make a name for yourself. You got to have an item that stands out, and try not to overdo it with the items that you do sell.
So you mentioned after you got everything, you got licensed, you got insured, you were good to go. You can basically operate tomorrow, like, the next day. How long did it take you until your business was booming in regards to like getting, like, at least seeing a return on an investment on everything?
It took me close to a year to pay myself back for my investment for the food truck, for all the supplies, for all the hardware, like the griddle that I purchased, the generator. Because you got to spend money to make money too. So to go out for an event, you're spending a couple $100 in supplies, if not more, depending on your menu.
Gotcha.
And then, so it took a while to pay myself back. But once I paid myself back, the overhead is pretty much gone after that. You're just spending for registration, for licensing, for insurance, and then for your supplies. But you also have to have some kind of savings in case, like, you are running an actual food truck and you break down, or if you're running a trailer and your truck breaks down, or something breaks on your trailer and you have to get it fixed. I just spent the money to get a newer generator this year that was quieter, because some of the farmers market events that I go to don't allow over a certain decibel limit. for the generator. It's too loud for them, and they can send you home and you won't ever be invited again. So there's a lot of rules and regulations, and you should make nice and play nice and be friendly with everybody that what's it called, that you are working with. You're selling yourself, and then you're selling your food next. So make sure you can sell yourself and then sell your food to be prosperous in this business.
Gotcha. And then, was your trailer, like, can you register your trailer with the BMV before getting it, or do you have to wait until you actually acquired the trailer?
You wait till you acquire the trailer, just like you would with a car, because there's a VIN number associated with most of the trailers because they're not homemade. Mine has a VIN plate, so I had to take my VIN number in.
And then, before I answer that one, there was another question that says, what kind of insurance did you have to get, or did you have to work with an insurance agent? That, and once you answer that, do you have to require proof of insurance when operating an event, or are you required to list the location owner as an additional insured?
Depending on the event, yes. So I carry a liability policy for my business, and then I carry commercial auto for my truck and my trailer. I actually just spoke to another insurance agent the other day because I wanted to up my limits a little bit. And for the locations, like for the farmers markets, I have to put them as a named insured on my liability plan for my business policy. So for, like, let's say the Toledo Farmers Market, I have to log into the insurance website and add them as a named insured and then send it to them. Not everybody requires proof of insurance. Some of the bigger events definitely do, but you should always have insurance. You're trying to protect, like, if something bad happens, you need insurance.
And then, going back to the first questions I asked you, about the register your trailer with the BMV. If you have the VIN number and the specs for the trailer, whether you acquired that trailer or not, can you register that trailer?
Yes, as long as you have, like, the bill of sale or purchase, the paperwork you have for the trailer will license. You don't have to take it into the BMV. You can just show up and hop in line and then register it and get your sticker and plate for it.
Gotcha. And then, you mentioned something about working with other food truck owners. Obviously, you got the regulation side of it. I think the biggest part is like wrapping your trailer or disposing of that gray water, or kind of those type of, or contractors, like do you hire someone? Do you do it? Or like those tedious questions that obviously the health department may or may not be able to answer. That as usually you have to just Google search. So
yeah, usually.
Yeah.
Like I said, I didn't have this resource. A lot of it was me just looking online to find all the information I need. Now I have, like, a community of food truck owners I can ask, which is nice. And if you're on Facebook, I would recommend going to Toledo Area Food Truck. You can always ask a food truck opening related question and somebody's going to answer you. It's we're not like that. We're not going to tell you to go do something else. We'll answer your question. It's not a big deal. You can ask, you can message us privately, or you can ask right in the group and somebody will answer you. I have another Facebook group just for the owners where I can ask them, like, hey, have you guys been to this location? How is it? Should I require a minimum? Like, stuff like that. Like, I have other communication methods too for other owners, and I talk to them like, hey, you've done this event. Well, what do I need to know? How is parking there? How is this or that? Do they have electric? Stuff like a couple of the bars I go to, they have a plug-in for me. I don't have to run my generator at all. I plug my 50 amp in right into their electric. And then ask to go to a location, like looking for different venues and stuff. The best way to do it is just to call and ask, like, hey, can I set up here?
And what is your preferred attendee like ratio to your food truck? Like, what's your preferred attendee to food truck ratio?
What do you mean? I'm confused by the question. Like, how many people come out to, like, per food truck?
Yeah, I would say, like, it's kind of, I mean, I'm not like, how many people per food truck? So I think, yeah.
So So depending, so like on events, some events, they'll call me and they'll say there's 25 people in the office building. I'm like, well, I'll come out, but I'll set a minimum. Like, is it okay? 650 is how much I would require to come for the day. And they would be like, okay, or they say no. A lot of times if it's over 100 people, or over 200 people, they have multiple food trucks anyway. You know, if they're going to draw a crowd, a lot of places have been getting, we have, I don't even know how many food trucks in Toledo now. I know it's over 100. It feels like it at least. But for me, like personally, like for a whole day, I would like, if I'm working more than 4 hours, I would like at least 50 tickets, if that answers the question.
Do you how do you prep, like for instance, something like ProMedica concerts? So if you have thousands of people for you going to an event, how do you, I mean, obviously you mentioned your trailer is not that
I
big.
prep
So,
for my limits. I don't prep for thousands of people.
okay,
So like I talked to Stacy and asked if I can have a second steam table. I know how much meat I can safely fit in my trailer. When I'm sold out, I'm sold out. Like you
gotcha.
can't bring in meat from somewhere else. It has to be on the trailer when you get there, you know? So I'll make sure I have my morning off for the ProMedica concert because it's a night event. And I'll do all my prep in my truck in the morning, get the meat all packaged in their containers so they fit well in the fridge after I grab the shopping and stuff, you know what I mean? And then when I get there, I just start cooking, put everything in steam tables, and then rearrange and make sure everything is packaged neatly, nicely, and cleanly. Because if it's all over, if you're unorganized, you're going to trip, you're going to slip, you're going to mess up somebody's food, you're going to cross-contaminate. So you got to play it safe and play it to your limits. Don't try to feed an extra 10,000 people because they're going to be there. The health department's not going to be happy with you about it, you know? And then make sure you have room for all the supplies, the additional stuff. So you have containers that you have to bring with you to put the food in. You got to remember the other random overhead you have. So the silverware, the straws, you know, like I take all the pop now. I don't put it in my coolers. I have just an igloo thing, like a actual cooler. So you got to remember to grab ice in the morning. There's a lot to it.
Now, you mentioned, this is before we started this webinar, you mentioned about weather. I mean, obviously Toledo has some interesting weather. Any
You can't plan for
recommendation?
weather. You just can't plan for weather because it snows in May now, you know, it's ridiculous. The other day, it was beautiful all morning. I prepped, I got the whole truck ready. I got to my event and it thunderstormed. So there's just no planning for weather. And then you're stuck. And that's what sucks. That's one of the, like, if you're having a bad day is you going home and dumping everything you spent money on because you have to clean the trailer and get it ready for the next day. You can't keep your stock or supplies for food safety reasons.
Now, do you operate year round, or do you like,
I
I'm
did
not
the
sure how
first
food
year
trucks.
and I don't anymore.
Okay,
Because in the middle of winter, it's hit and miss. You know what I mean? I tried working this year in February and I won't do it again because every Thursday that I was scheduled, I canceled because it snowed every Thursday in February. So I don't think I'm going to go out. I think I'm going to end either in November this year, at the end of like middle of November, and then I'm going to come back in beginning of March, middle of March next year. There are some food trucks that do year round. But more power to them. I'm not doing it anymore.
so what are some of the kind of techniques that you do to cool yourself down when it's a hot 90 day like yesterday, and then you're cooking up some meat and stuff like that? So how do you make sure you don't faint while cooking?
Hydrate.
Gotcha.
You need a lot of water and you need to have some like extra towels in there to keep just on your shoulder, a wet towel on your neck, something to keep yourself cool. I have a fan blowing in there. I don't have AC. Some of the newer food trucks, the nicer ones, have AC. I don't actually am required to have a vent by the fire department either because I only have a griddle. I don't have a fryer, but I am gonna get a vent. I'm looking into getting a vent because it just gets too hot. But so for fire suppression, there are a couple changes the fire department has. Like you have to cover your propane tank for weatherproofing by next year. The hood systems are going to change too. Some areas require them, some don't. And then they're going to start requiring suppression, just like a restaurant too. So depending on when you start and when you open, you always have to check for the rule and regulation changes, because it's already different from the time I started to now. You know what I mean? To go to Perrysburg, I had to change a propane line because he wanted a flex pipe that is for movable equipment. So a quick disconnect style. It's a little more expensive of a pipe. So then I had to do that, you know. And then after that, the next year he required me to change my fire extinguisher from just the regular red one. Now I'm required to have the greased one. So every year it's a little different. You just talk to your inspectors, your fire department, your health department, and just see what you need.
How do you dispose your wastewater? I mean, that's probably the common problem that all food trucks have, even whether it's in Toledo or not. I mean, the state of Ohio, but
I try and find not a storm drain, but a sewage drain to dump it in usually.
gotcha.
I only have to empty it. I try to empty it after every event. And in the winter, if you're running in the winter, you have to empty it every day. You have to drain all your water and empty it every day and have a little space heater, or else you're going to freeze your pipes and then not have water at all. You don't want to do that. You do not. So that's one of the other obstacles of working in the winter is you got to remember the cold temp is going to freeze everything in there. Even if you have that griddle going, it is still cold. It doesn't matter. And if you have a vent system, even with the griddle going, it's going to stay cold because it pulls all the heat out of the truck. So you got to remember, like, there are other factors other than just trying to stay comfortable. Dumping wastewater sucks sometimes though, you know, and you got to also remember for your fridges, for your temps, you can't go too far. If you have food in your fridge, you only have a certain amount of miles to go before it starts dropping in temp, and then your food's not safe anymore. You know, you don't want to take freshly prepped food all the way up to Detroit for an event, because by the time you get there, it's unsafe. You have to rewarm it up correctly or whatever. You can't just leave it out. You can't leave it in your fridge because your temp drops, you know?
Does your have you ever explored on, kind of doing business in a different state like Michigan, or even doing like want to avoid the winter, travel all the way down to Florida, spend winter there, sell, and then travel back and sell here?
I don't want to pull my trailer to Florida, but I did look into licensing in Michigan. It's a very similar process as Ohio, where you have to get a health inspection and a health license and then go through the city or county that you're in for their fire department. A lot of people go through Detroit or Monroe because it covers the general area that you would travel to from here. Because even I can't travel across the line and it's 5 minutes from my house. I live on Douglas in Sylvania, and I cannot cross the border with my food truck. I'm just not licensed up there. And there's a couple of breweries. I can't go into Bedford, you know? So you have to have your license where you're working.
How do you how do you maintain your trailer in regards to, like, when you're like, all right, it's time for me to buy a new trailer, or this trailer is going bad? Do you analyze other than the tires and the wear and tear, or is there like a thing?
Depending, so it depends on business, number one, like how much wear and tear you're putting into the truck every week. If you're working 12-hour shifts, you're gonna put more wear on it than somebody who goes out for 4 or 5 hours a week, and you got to remember Toledo is snow, so you got the salt, so that you're gonna rust your trailers. You got to maintain a safe vehicle just like you would your own car. And then the amount of business you do and what you want to do to make changes. So for me, I made micro changes as I went, little things here and there to help me do business quicker, faster, more efficiently, safer way to do it, a cleaner way to do something. Just make little changes as you go. When you get to the point where you can't make any more changes and you really can't touch your menu anyway, unless you call your inspector, you then have to go to a bigger size trailer where you can get more meat in the fridge or get more veggies to have more items, or even just to expand to sell more, to sell longer, so it all is just based on how you're working. I can't, it's not like a blanket statement, like after 60,000 miles, you should get a new truck.
I should say, so people, and I know there's some businesses here, but are people that have multiple, like let's say you had 2 or 3 of your taco trucks, would each I mean, have you ever had any?
At that
friends
point,
have-
I would probably either have a restaurant or a commissary.
Gotcha.
You would have to, because there's no, so there is a taco truck in town that does that. Their restaurant is I think the Azteca or whatever on Monroe Street,
Mhm.
and they have 2 taco trucks that go out every day. The taco trucks are loaded by the restaurant most likely, and they had to get approved by the health department and by the Department of Agriculture for a commissary, so they can have a prep kitchen. Even though they are a restaurant already, they still have to handle the amount of food that goes into the 2 trailers. But
Gotcha.
so like if I wanted to expand, I would definitely at this point either get a larger trailer, which is I'm looking for one now for next year, hopefully, or go through and find myself a commissary that can handle storage and all my needs for the year.
Gotcha. Cool. Any other questions? That have, I'm sure that Yezen will be more than happy to help you if there are food trucks owners attending
Yeah,
today.
you guys can
and
reach
find
out,
things.
message me, and if I don't know, I can send you in the right direction to who I asked or who would know. Okay.
So with that, as I mentioned before, this recording is recorded and will be provided to you guys sometime tomorrow or in the next few days, as well as the panelist contact information. If you would like to hear any information on our Northwest Ohio Cooperative Kitchen or tour that facilities, please contact me. There will be a questions being asked at the end of this webinar, so please I highly encourage you to answer those. It allows us to continue our programming and kind of understand what everybody has a questions, like to answer all those questions. His name, someone asked what your name is, so it's Yezen is his name. That is our panelist. And then somebody asked, last but not least, would a smoker be classified as a food truck, a smoker truck?
Yes.
That's a health department question, not me.
Yes, it would.
Yes.
Okay.
There's
You
food
would?
on it, it's
Okay.
a truck.
Gotcha.
It involves food, health is involved.
And you can smoke on the truck, correct? Okay. All right, that is it. We're gonna end early, which is awesome. All right, cool. Well, thank you, Yezen, Jody, Stacy, Amy. I know she logged on, she logged off. Feel free to contact any of us. And I hope you guys all have a wonderful day. Yeah, enjoy the weather outside. It might be still hot, not sure.
Yeah, it is.
Thank you for having
Thanks.
us.
You're welcome.
Thanks for having me. Have a good
You're
night,
welcome.
guys.
You
Yeah,
too.
and message
You
me if
too.
you guys have any questions. I have no problem helping out. Okay.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I'll catch you later.
Awesome. See ya.